Today, I'm going to be breaking down Metaverse by Olamide, where, as usual, I'm going to be talking you through the various elements that I'm picking up on as we go through it. For those of you that are interested, I have posted my interpretation of the song meaning down in the description below, so if you want to go ahead, check that out, by all means, do so. All right, headphones on, let's get into some new music.
James Bond, oh my God. People think say na grace I be na kuloti mo gbe to je ko ri mi ya were. Feel like I just away kalakuta le. I dey get you possess me, let me she mercy, egbe mi gently, Allah protect me yo. Emi rọra gbe mi ṣe akuba, emi ma pa mi na. Oya, o ti di ọmọ kata o, o se pe ko se kwanta o, ta o.
All right, we're going to stop it there. Let's cover off the intro. Let's cover off the first verse. Okay, so let's get into this intro. So it's 8 bars long, so we have an average length intro, but it builds as we go through. And I'm going to talk about how it does that in a bit. Tempo-wise, we're sitting at around 114 BPM, so we have a moderate tempo, also known as allegretto. But pay attention to how they open us up. We get a bass in there from the get-go, but you'll notice that the bass it's rhythmic, right? It's not consistent or this kind of flatline bass. And when we get opened up with a bass like that, and it is literally just the bass, what this is doing is it kind of builds up a little bit of tension and a little bit of anticipation. Because the truth of the matter is, you don't know what's coming next. You don't know if it's going to be some filthy drop. You don't know where we're going to get big vocals. Are we going to get this orchestral piece? You just don't know. So it builds that anticipation. But what you'll also notice at that first part of the intro, when the bass is in, we've also got another sound in there. Now I don't know what that sound is, but what it does do is it reminds me of like these kind of early space sounds that you'd expect in like early Star Trek or even like Marvin the Martian. But we then get to about 8 seconds. We get to about 8 seconds in. Boom, horns come into the mix. They're hitting on the first beat of every bar, keeping it nice and simple. We then get to around 14 seconds and we get this, well, several percussive sounds come in. And essentially what that's doing is it's just acting as a transition to take us out of the intro into the first verse. Talking about the first verse, so this is where the drums come into the mix, but the interaction between the drums, particularly the snare and the claps, fire. Keys, they're also brought into the mix, but pay attention because you'll notice that those keys follow the same pattern as the horns from the intro. And talking about the horns, you'll notice here, they're not even in the mix in this first verse. Vocally, again, absolute fire. Pay attention to the higher range vocal that follows the lower range lead vocal, but also listen out for the two vocals that come in, one at 21 seconds, one at 29 seconds, and how they fill the void in the lead vocal. And then the final thing is the feel and the vibe of the track. Now, listen, for me personally, sitting here listening to it, I'm definitely picking up almost like a Latin influence, right? From the drums to some of the sounds that are being used to the horns and even through to how the vocals are being presented. And this is something that I've noticed, artists like Ira Star, Black Sheriff, Ashake, and now Olamide starting to diversify the music. And the thing with this is that when artists do this, you're always going to be met with an element of resistance because there are some people out there that just do not want things to change. But I can tell you, as long as it's done properly, it's actually a good thing. One, for the artist and their longevity, but two, for the continued growth of the genre. But also what it allows is for other forms of music to stem from the genre. And again, take it from me, somebody who has now at this point lived through several decades of genres of music. Those that do not diversify will end up fading away in the background. And this is definitely something we do not want here. So let's go back. Let's listen. Right, bass. And there's that Star Trek-y Marvin the Martian type sound. Horns. Transition. Drums in. Listen to the interaction between the snare and the claps. Okay, right, we're going to stop it there. Let's cover off the chorus. So the first thing that we notice here, horns, they come back in the mix. Only this time round, they're more pacier, more rhythmic than what they were in the introduction. Claps, slightly more prominent here in the chorus compared to the first verse. Vocals, slightly lower range again in this chorus compared to the first verse. And they have definitely been padded out with some additional layers. And that higher range layer that I was talking about in the first verse, that is still in the mix. It's just not as present. But also pay attention to the flow. Very much like the trumpets, more pacier in the chorus. And then the final thing, I actually have a challenge for you here. So there's this sound that's buried really far back in the mix within this chorus, and it's this dun 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 dun. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if that is the exact rhythm because that's how deep it's buried, but my challenge to you is, can you hear it? Because it definitely is a hard hear. Now if you can, please let me know in the comments down below. If you can't, please don't lie, right? Like, if you can't hear it, right? It's a hard hear. That's why it's a challenge. But definitely, you know, if you can hear it, please let me know in the comments down below. Right, let's go back. Let's listen. Right, chorus coming in. Trumpets.
How many if we don't drop shanka? Baby bend down, with the back up. If your guy dollar, make you shanka. Oh, you tight, it's a bra. Go malaba, oh, the back roba. Ja, eli ja, was it ja, was it low, Metaverse, was it para day with the lamba. Oh, yeah, bra, eh, give with the gra. If it's not money, what are you saying?
Nice cut.
Yo, we know the drum for the gram. Flow chop for my head, be careful with the gram.
Okay, right, we're going to stop it there. Let's cover off the second verse. So the first thing that we notice here that's different from the first verse is the fact that those horns, they're carried over. The second thing, Olamide switches things up. So he goes from this singing tone in the first verse to more of a rapping tone within this second verse. But that also applies to the other vocals that are brought into the mix. So for example, the vocals that drop in at 55 seconds. Pay attention to what happens at 58 seconds because those horns from the intro that were hitting on the first beat of every bar, they're actually brought back into the mix, but they're only in there temporarily. And then the final thing is the percussion transition that, again, we had in the intro. We get that at the back end of this second verse. It wasn't in there at all in the first verse. So let's go back. Let's listen.
How many if we don't drop shanka? Baby bend down, with the back up. If your guy dollar, make you shanka. Oh, you tight, it's a bra. Go malaba, oh, the back roba. Ja, eli ja, was it ja, was it low, Metaverse, was it para day with the lamba. Oh, yeah, bra, eh, give with the gra. If it's not money, what are you saying, bra? Yo, we know the drum for the gram. Flow chop for
transition.
give them different pattern. This is Latin, your body come and get pow. We are me kill be bandu, come and shout out. Energy or the knockout, energy, 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 energy. Boom me jiggy 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 jiggy. Oh jiggy jiggy, shiggy, I mean CBD. My life fresh and sweet, booty and van on the way, Mr. Boss way. You know me, I know the play. They no talk money, mama di baby.
Okay, right, I'm going to stop it here just very, very quickly because we're in the last verse now, and, you know, you can tell that there's a lot of repeated themes, things that we've already discussed, and there isn't going to be much more that changes. But what I do want to bring your attention to is the bridge, right? So we had a bit of a bridge there, and what you can hear is it's almost like this opera vocal, right, that is just buried below the layers, and it's been kind of played with a little bit, so it doesn't sound exactly like an opera vocal, but when you hear it, you'll get what I mean. And that gets carried over from the bridge into this final verse, so pay attention to it because it absolutely bangs. So let's go back a few. I'll try and get it about the bridge, and then we'll see the rest of the track out. There.
My life fresh and sweet. Booty and van on the way.
Carried over.
You know me, I know the play. They no talk money, mama di baby. Gigi. Omaru koma gbegbe. Fashe ko solude. Owo ti de. Da party ruby.
There again.
O ti di omo kata o. Ko se pe ko si panta o. Ta o. Cause your mind over matter o. Give them different pattern. This is Latin. Your body come and get pow. We on me kill be bandu. Come and shout out. Energy or the knockout. Energy, 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 energy. OTP on my catao. Cause you panta o. Ta o. Cause your mind over matter. Give them different pattern. This is Latin. Your body come and get pow.
Hear flutes in there.
Come and shout out. Energy or the knockout. Energy, 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 energy.
Knew it. Yeah, bangs, mate. Okay, that's it for me. If you want to see more breakdown and analyses videos, everything's popping up on the screen right now. Other than that, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I will see you in the next one.